it's Marley from the Energy Boutique with your energy forecast for Tuesday, December 12th. So welcome to the new moon in Sagittarius day. Of course, we got a lot going on today. The build up to today has been very intense. And once we reach that peak potency energy of this new moon in Sag perfecting itself and popping off, we are definitely going to be in a different mood, in a different attitude, in a different energy, as we kind of watch some of the domino effects of this new moon in Sag unfold. So if you haven't listened to the astro forecast that I put out for this new moon event, I'm going to recommend you do that. If you haven't downloaded your zodiac forecast for December, I'm going to recommend you do that so that you understand where this particular energy is taking place in your life. And of course, pop out your Sagittarius season e-guide and really capture some of the highs, the lows, the everything in between that's currently going on around this new moon event. There is a lot of content, a lot of resources out there for you. Definitely tap into what you can in order to stay in alignment and to stay ahead of this particular energy. So not only do we have the new moon kind of influencing us today, but this is also the last day that Mercury is going to be direct. We are going to see Mercury go retrograde approximately 8 hours after the new moon in Sag peaks. And this is definitely going to add an extra layer of confusion, an extra layer of, let's call it, a pause or procrastination, which is almost a good thing, seeing as that Sag energy is showing us the bigger, broader perspective and picture of what it is that we would like to build towards. But the retrograde energy is kind of keeping us in a holding pattern so that we don't take action and make moves to actually pursue the path and the direction moving forward before we clean up the details, the loose ends of the past. So there's a lot going on. There is going to be a lot of intense energy swirling here today, and I would definitely recommend that you tap into those resources that I've already recommended so that you have a full vision, a full perspective, a full understanding of why you feel and think the way that you do. Okay, so there are 11 different aspects taking place here today. 9 of them are going to involve the moon. So the sun in Sagittarius energy is going to be making a tough interaction with Uranus, the Great Awakener, who of course is retrograde in Taurus energy. So this particular energy kind of gives us this inner vibration, this shaking, this nervousness, this restlessness, if you will. Can also open us up to kind of seeing where major or minor disruptions to our day, to our plans, to our mental plane, to our energy, to our mood has to take place in order for us to feel this quote unquote shake up, this wake up, before we kind of start seeing why this shake up and wake up needs to happen in order for the puzzle pieces to be rearranged in a different way. There is this restlessness, this urgency that we are feeling to kind of make a change, to have to break away from what it is that we've been doing, to want to see a sense of peace and calmness to some of the dysfunction that has been thrown in our face as of late. But instead, because of this Uranian energy being retrograde in Taurus, we are starting to see why it is that even though we may be praying for change, we're actually in a very fearful state looking at the change that could be possibly taking place in our lives. So this is kind of creating I'm going to say a real rattle to our central nervous system. A lot of restlessness, a lot of anxiety, a lot of jitteriness, if you will, but also puts us in a state of paralysis because we can't take action and make any moves right now, but we're kind of jittery. We don't know what to do with ourselves, and therefore we are kind of, I'm going to say, feeling like we may kind of explode at times with energy. We may need to scream. We may need to dance it out. We have to keep our physical bodies engaged in order to get that energy out of our physical form. And so this isn't going to feel good, but it is necessary. It's kind of shaking the foundation of what it is that we have been kind of doing in our lives in order to see where there's a new path, a new direction that needs to kind of take form in order for us to gain a little bit of a closer distance towards the things that we want to pursue, and of course create a lot of distance away from the things that are very much in our face that we no longer want to experience and explore. The moon, very much in this Sag energy, going to make a positive interaction with Jupiter. Jupiter rules over Sagittarius energy, over the season, over this moon event. Jupiter, of course, is about growth and expansion, beliefs, knowledge, wisdom, abundance and blessings. He is retrograde in Taurus energy as well. The moon interacting with Jupiter is definitely putting us in a situation to be plucking out the silver linings from our not so nice experiences, putting us in a situation to be constantly reminding ourselves of the possibilities, of the hopes, of the wishes, of the dreams. This is our attempt to kind of bring ourselves out of the darkness, out of the funk of this dark phase of the moon, and really put ourselves in a situation to look at some of the dysfunction that has been popping off as our opportunity to grow, as our opportunity to get out into the world when given the green light, go ahead to do so, and blaze a new path forward to get us away from some of the aspects that we no longer want to be in alignment with, that we no longer want to experience. This is kind of a glow up in order to realize where it is that we are growing up, where it is that there is a certain path that will lead us into calmness, into, let's call it, more constructive type of building, growth, healing. This is an illumination on where it is that our emotions need a little bit of a pick-me-up into a more optimistic type of narrative, so that we are not being suffocated under the dark force entities that are really trying to trigger and activate us in our heart space, in our head space, and in our physical realm. The moon is then going to come up to bump into conjunct Mars. Now, if you downloaded the moon guide or listened to the astro forecast, you would know that Mars is a key player here in this new moon event. Mars, the god of war, ruling over our physical energy, our drive, our passion, our desires, even our anger. In this Sagittarius energy, sitting so freaking close to the sun, to the moon, it is part of the stellium that is taking place under this new moon event. Now, the moon conjunct Mars is definitely going to put us in a very, I'm going to call it intense energy. Now, that intense energy could come in the form of inspiration, motivation, determination on what it is that we want to take action upon, what it is that we want to do, where it is that we want to grow, where it is that we want to push ourselves into new foreign territory, or it could really trigger a lot of agitation, frustration, anger, disappointment. Whichever fuel you're using, it is going to put you in a different situation, a different perspective, a different element of understanding on where it is that you have to be a little bit more aggressive in order to either correct the particular situations that are popping off, resolve them, heal them, grow through them, or just kind of distance yourself altogether from some of that craziness and chaos and focus on what it is that you want to be building in the place of the things that are currently falling apart. The moon then going to semi-square, a little bit of tension and conflict, with Pluto, the great transformer. So Pluto is here to kind of rattle us, to do a deep dive in our psyche, in our programming, in our conditioning, in order to see where it is that the holdup is taking place, where it is that we're allowing the pain and the trauma and the darkness and the fears and the doubts and the insecurities to override the positive, optimistic, confident, dreamy type of energy that we should be sitting in. A lot of this is because the old version of self isn't quite done with us as of yet. Again, we're in a testing period from now until the solstice. And those darker force energies definitely want to remind us of where it is that we're coming from, the pain and trauma that we've accumulated in our experiences, in order to help paralyze us, to prevent us from growing, from healing, from evolving in any kind of way. So of course, we are going to have to kind of sit in the funk, realize where it is that the not so nice thoughts, the not so nice emotions are coming up to keep us in a state of paralysis. And of course, this gives us the opportunity to boss up, to take control over our inner realm and really flip the script, the inner narrative, and flip that into something more empowering. The moon is then going to go ahead and trine, beautiful interaction with Chiron, the wounded healer, who is retrograde in this Aries energy, helping us make this identity change. Now, I have been calling it an identity crisis / identity rebranding, if you will. But this essentially is the tipping point when we are starting to see ourselves from a different set of eyes, a different perspective, if you will. Lucky for us, this is a trine. It's a beautiful interaction. It means that there is some growth, there is some improvement, there is some healing, and it's happening without a lot of energy or effort from us, from, the universe. It's just something that has finally reached its tipping point, and now we start seeing the gentle nudge from the universe in the right direction. Now, this particular interaction is going to have us focus more on the ability of us growing up, growing through what it is that we're going through, healing some of the past wounds that, of course, would have come up with that interaction with Pluto. And because this is a positive interaction, we're not really focused on the wounds as much as we are on our ability to flip the script, override those particular narratives and feelings, and put us in a much more empowering situation and circumstance. The moon is then going to make a positive interaction with Saturn, the Lord of Karma, ruling over our roles, responsibilities, systems, structures, foundations. We have willpower, we have discipline now that we're looking to integrate. Our belief systems have changed, our dreams have changed, our visions have changed, our perception and understanding has changed. We just haven't integrated, we haven't implemented it yet, we haven't started working with it in this physical realm. It's still kind of being anchored in, if you will. We're at the very beginning degrees of this Piscean energy. So the moon interacting with Saturn is giving us both I'm going to call it, over-exaggerated sense of dreams and visions that we are pushing ourselves to kind of conjure up in our mental plane. Yet Saturn's energy is the reality check. It's bringing us down a couple of pegs. It means that the big vision, the big dreams, the big ideas that kind of get triggered and activated under the Sagittarius energy that, typically speaking, aren't achievable, aren't really obtainable. They're a little bit too foo-foo, too outlandish, too out there. The Saturn energy brings it into form. We're able to see the structure that is needed in our physical realm, in our physical lives, especially due to the inner work that we've already done, really morphing our thoughts, our feelings, our belief system, what it is that we need to start building, what we need to create. You know, it's great to have a vision and a dream, but if you don't have any kind of foundation or structure in your daily life as far as habits and routines go, to actually support bringing those aspects into fruition, then those dreams, those ideas, that vision is merely going to stay in the mental plane and in the heart space. Saturn is kind of the tough love life lesson giver who says, okay, that's great that you have a big dream, that you're motivated, that you're inspired. Now, what are you going to do about it? How are you going to bring it to life? What do you need to do in your physical realm, in the here and now, in order to start building towards it? This is a positive interaction, so we're not going to feel the existential dread. We're not going to feel the pressure. Instead, it's a challenge for us to come up with solutions on how it is that we are going to start manifesting some of these elements that we've already started kind of percolating on in our inner realm. The moon is then going to interact with Uranus in not the nicest way. This is where we start feeling the fidgetiness, the restlessness, the uncertainty, the confusion. Why am I saying that these are all good things, even though they sound a little bit tough, a little bit challenging? Well, because this is the last aspect that is being made prior to this new moon in Sag popping off, which means that this is the jitter point. This is the intensity point. This is the breakdown point, the confusion point that needs to come before in order for us to have the breakthrough, the clarity. This is a not so nice thought or feeling that will take over us. Again, restlessness, anxiety, uncertainty, confusion, all of those lovely things. But again, puts us in a little bit more of a situation, a circumstance, a mood, and an attitude to be open to new ways of doing things, open to a new path moving forward, open to new ideas that will get us out of the funk and away from some of the current situations that we have definitely outgrown. 6:32 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, the moon in Sag comes up to, bumps into, teams up with the sun in Sagittarius energy, which gives us our new moon in Sag taking place at 20 degrees. So there's a lot going on here. This is going to bring forth a new awareness, a new perspective, a new mood, a new attitude, a new path, a new direction, and a new strategy in how to actually move forward. Again, take a listen to the new moon in Sagittarius astro forecast that I put out there. Download your moon guide. Listen to December zodiac forecast. The moon then goes ahead and makes a very awkward interaction with Jupiter, the ruler of this new moon in Sag. What this is going to do, and again, this takes place probably about an hour after that peak potency pops off. What this is going to do is kind of bring us down just a tad. Now, again, we have to understand that the peak potency of these moon events, that's when the safe essentially gets cracked open. We haven't opened the door yet. We're going to slowly be opening the door to the safe, and that's when the inner contents of the safe are going to be revealed to us over the next, I'm going to say, week or so, as we see the moon then illuminate the sky once again. If you see no glimmer of the moon in the sky, there's no information, there's no clarity, there's no action. When the moon becomes visible again, that is when the information starts to trickle in. That's when there's a forward movement. That is when we start to gain clarity. So we have a couple of days to sit in the dark phase of the moon where there's no illumination in the sky, which means that we still have a lot to percolate on. The moon interacting with Jupiter in this way, likely going to turn the volume all the way up and intensify all of the, let's call it, disappointment that we're currently feeling. We are really struggling to see how it is that we are going to move forward. Many of us very tired of this particular journey. And because Jupiter tends to kind of, really illuminate for us what it is that we're currently sitting in, we are sitting in the confusion. We're sitting in the want, need, and desire to make a move, make a change, but not being able to do so. And so there's not a whole lot of optimism, not a whole lot of confidence, not a whole lot of silver linings kind of being plucked at this particular moment, but it doesn't mean that it isn't going to happen. It just means that we have to sit in this, be very aware of where it is that we're actually preventing ourselves from growing, from healing, from improving. There's a huge focus on where it is that self-sabotage is very, very potent, very high at this particular point, at this particular juncture of the calendar. And so we have to become very aware of where it is that we're essentially blocking our own damn selves, blocking our own damn blessings before we can realize where it is that we need to get out of the way. Speaking of those particular, let's call them illumination points, we have Venus, the goddess of love, beauty, worth, pleasure, and money in the Scorpio energy, doing a deep dive in our heart space, in our shadow selves. We have Venus making a very awkward interaction with Neptune. So Neptune, of course, in his place of power in Pisces energy, Neptune is the higher octave of Venus. What do I mean by that? Okay, so Neptune is the creator energy. It's where imagination, inspiration, where insight, where intuition, where karma, all of those lovely things, where they are off in the ether, let's say. We tap into that particular energy, it becomes a realization within us. What do? We bring it down into the physical body. That's where Venus rolls over. We bring it down into the heart space. That's where she really has power and control. And we really start to kind of fine tune the vision, the dreams, the ideas, the creativity, the karma, the intuitive insights that we're currently being downloaded with. But this is an awkward interaction. This is water on water. So water is very cleansing, very transformative, very healing. But in a not so nice aspect, it's also attempting to kind of drown us. It's blurring our vision, if you will. And so what we get here is a lot of delusion. We could find ourselves very late in the evening, really trying to convince ourselves to believe in things that aren't really true. Why? Because believing in things that aren't actually true is sometimes the safest things to prevent us from dealing with the way that things actually are, because we're not emotionally or mentally prepared to do a deep dive in reality at this time. What we do is we put those rose-colored glasses on. And what we do is we really start kind of, I'm going to say, conjuring up a vision and a dream of potential instead of actual reality. And so it could feel good in the moment, but all we're doing is setting ourselves up for disappointment when that reality check comes in. And you best believe with Mercury preparing to go retrograde that there's going to be a lot of confusion, a lot of delusion really taking over our mental plane and our heart space. And so, there is going to be this urgency to kind of make a move or express ourselves or take action, especially in relationship dynamics. We don't want to do that right now. We want to stabilize before we kind of move forward with any kind of expression of affection, especially now that Mercury will be going retrograde. So the last thing that we have going on here is the moon in this Sag energy, trining beautiful interaction with the North Node in Aries. So again, if you downloaded the moon guide, you would know the influence that this is going to have on us. But emotionally speaking, we are coming out of the funk. We are coming out of the, let's call it not so nice narrative, not so nice emotions. We are starting to see where it is that we could take a baby step in a better direction, where we could take a little bit of an action move, especially in our inner realm, to dig ourselves out of that deep, dark pit, out of that not so nice narrative. And because the North Node in Aries is trying to get us on the right path in order for us to move forward into new soul missions, new soul quests, new soul potential, this is an opportunity for us to see, emotionally speaking, where we do have the opportunity to change, to grow, to evolve, and to improve.